Hello, welcome to Digital Marketing Masterclass. My name is Chris Carr. I am the host of today's show. I am also the founder and CEO of Ferrotech, a digital marketing agency located in the city of Philadelphia. And as always, my co-host is Mr. Todd Smith. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
All right. If you don't know, Todd is our VP of Partner Growth. And today we have an extremely exciting show for you. It's packed to the gills. We were in the green room and we were thinking, hey, this show could be 5 hours because there's so much cool stuff that we want to cover. And the reason why is because we have an amazing guest. We have Amanda Todorovich. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So let me dive into your bio. There's a lot there, and I'm so anxious to get into this. And I just think you have such an awesome background and pedigree, and I want to kind of walk through some of these details so that it seasons how we talk about what we're going to do here. So Amanda was inducted into the Healthcare Internet Hall of Fame in 2019 and named the 2016 Content Marketer of the Year by Content Marketing Institute. Amanda is the Executive Director of Content Marketing at Cleveland Clinic and is responsible for the #1 most visited hospital blog in the country. It's called Health Essentials, as well as the clevelandclinic.org.
And I'm going to be there.
Email marketing, and SEO. Prior to joining Cleveland Clinic in 2013, Amanda was the co-founder and chief content officer at Med City News. Amanda is a content marketing and social media thought leader for over 20 years of storytelling experience, and she is passionate about innovative communication and strategic content of all kinds.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, that was a good show. Thank you.
And so here's how I found out about Amanda, because we're actually kind of in the same space. We do a lot of orthopedics marketing ourselves. So we had Joe Polizzi on our show. If you don't remember, it was the one where we literally just laughed for about 39 minutes. And as I'm studying up on Joe, I'm doing the dishes, and it goes from YouTube and it goes from Joe's talk at Content Marketing Institute to your talk. And within a minute or 2 minutes, I was hooked because I think you are an absolute genius. So this is so exciting for us. So in a word, can you explain kind of, if for the people that have been under a rock for the last 20 years, what is Cleveland Clinic and why are you guys so unique?
Yeah, sure. Cleveland Clinic is actually a global healthcare system. It's not just a Cleveland clinic. We have facilities all over the country, as well as in London and Abu Dhabi. In the U.S., we have obviously clinics and locations all over Ohio, but also in Florida and Las Vegas. We also have a location in Toronto, Canada. We are a multi-billion-dollar health system that is certainly among the best of the best in the world. And I have the best job ever.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's been obviously from your bio that Chris read, it's been quite a journey to get there, right? What was that like making the transition?
Sure. Yeah. When I was hired in 2013, I was a digital marketing manager. I had 3 people on the staff, really responsible for the entire blog at the time and social media. Today, the team is more than 80 people strong, and we're responsible for pretty much everything that you see online from Cleveland Clinic.
That is absolutely incredible. So one of the things we talked about, and you sort of just touched on it right there, is you have this sort of 2-year vision of what you're trying to build. Can you just explain what that looks like or sounds like? Just so we can get an idea of, obviously you've got this solid background in content marketing and you've built it up obviously tremendously in the last 7 or 8 years, but what's it look like for the next 2 years?
Sure. It's a little crazy, honestly. It's been such an exciting year, to be honest. About a year ago to right now, we started putting together plans for basically to be the dominating, undisputed leader in digital for healthcare providers, per our CEO. We were building out a 5-year strategy. He loved it so much, but he wanted it in 2 years. So we came back with a big business case and plan.
Typical CEO, right?
No pressure.
Yeah.
No
I
pressure.
love it, but cut the time in half and do it for half the budget.
Yep. Well, but it wasn't half the budget because I was really honest about what it would take to accomplish what he asked for. And honestly, it was a lot of people and a lot of money. But the reality is there's been an unprecedented investment at Cleveland Clinic in marketing to make this happen. So over the next 2 years, we're really striving for billions of growth in sessions per year to our website. And
Wait, I'm sorry, billions? Wow, that's a big number.
yeah, it's a real big number.
No pressure.
9 zeros?
Yeah. So, it comes through a lot of hard work and a lot of different things that we've done in smaller pieces over the years. So essentially the plan was built on scaling that effort across everything, really trying to attack all the clinical areas at the same time, as aggressively as possible, from everything through SEO primarily, but also social and the content that needed to be created to help do that and accomplish all of these things. So the team has grown exponentially in the last 6 to 8 months. At the start of 2021, I had 23 people on my team, and now it's 80.
Oh my gosh. So obviously, within those 80 people, you have, different skill sets. Do you have employees that are focused specifically on certain like disease states or certain, parts of the organization? Like, is that also are you that granular now?
Yeah. So what we've essentially done is built what we call our team of teams model. So there is a team focused on each clinical institute for us. So there's an SEO team, there's a writing team, there's content architects and people who are building web pages and doing all the back-end support. So there's medical illustration and graphic design as part of those teams. So literally they cross-functionally assemble every single day and are looking at the content we have, content we need, how we're ranking, how our competitors are ranking in that particular clinical area, what we need to do to basically be the best of the best at every single thing. I mean, we've done this in, like I said, in kind of small pieces. We've tested this formula. We knew what we needed to do. So this plan for the next 2 years was all about scale and investment. So we initially, when I started all of this, had one SEO person, and now we have 17. So and we really wanted to have, like I said, SEO expertise for every area, writing expertise for every area.
Right.
So that's how we've structured everything.
Yeah, now that makes sense, especially if you're trying to get to the billions. What about in your market? Are there companies that seem like they're competitors that are doing a good job? You don't have to name names, but are there companies out there that are yeah, you know what? They're pretty good at what they do, and we need to be better at it. Is that sort of a mantra for you, or? Yeah,
I mean, for the most part, when you look at the healthcare provider space and it comes to content marketing, there's two of us, two giant brands in the space. They've had a 20-year head start on us, and have been doing this for a long time. So, my leadership is hyper focused on a lot of that, and how do we become more competitive and ultimately become the leader, which is no small task. It's a lot of work. We also look a lot at other healthcare publishers. So like WebMD, Healthline, Verywell, Everyday Health, those kinds of sites, because that's a lot of the same type of work that we are doing. And especially because we monetize the site as well and do advertising, publishing is really a better model for us to look at. We're not a typical hospital website by any stretch.
Yeah. So my first question is why content, but I'm laughing so hard about the concept of 17 SEOs in a room. So, I started this company 20 years ago. SEOs don't always get along with each other. What's that like?
Well, I think it's remote work has probably helped.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, we're full-time, fully remote, and it's spread out all over the country. I've been able to hire talent from everywhere now, which is a huge game changer as well. But I mean, the exponential growth is critical, but it's not like the 17 SEO people are always working together. They're really, it's the SEO working with the writer, working with the project manager, working with the illustrator, it's all of that. That's really the bulk of the job.
Right. Team of teams.
Team of teams. Yeah. It is pretty funny though, because, you get the technical SEO guys who are in that camp. Then you get the backlink guys who don't believe that the other guys are actually real firefighters. You know what I mean? It's really funny to get them in the same room. I'm like, well, everybody just chill out with the ego, because I know what it takes to build this thing. But you know what? It's not black and white.
Well, and we also inherently build up competition because we report numbers so much and share what's happening by team. So there's a little bit of that, but it's also a huge motivator. And it keeps kind of everybody in check on how we're doing and scaling.
Yeah. That's so funny though. Yeah. So let's dive in. Why content? And I I know that you were going to talk a little bit about the content that converts, and then we also have content that's building a bigger story. But, why you? Why content? What was the dream? What was the vision? How'd you get there?
Yeah. When I started here, I inherited this blog at the time that really was just getting started. It was less than a year old. And, at the beginning stages, it was a lot of content that internal stakeholders were telling us to write about. This is what Dr. X wants. This is what, we need to promote today. And we very quickly pivoted to, what does our audience want? What is the data telling us is actually working, and driving editorial strategy from there. And whether you're talking about high level awareness type content, which is honestly the bulk of what my team does, or very niche specific content down to you're trying to drive a specific volume around a particular procedure, understanding what is actually resonating versus what everybody internally thinks will work is totally different. And honestly, that's been the biggest key to our success, no matter what aspect of our work you look at. It's been small, iterative improvements over time, studying the analytics and understanding, what is converting, what is resonating, and how you define conversion, right? I mean, appointments and contribution margin are the holy grail for most of us. But for me, in the role that I'm in today and the work that we're doing, honestly, I'm really trying to scale traffic so much that all I care about is getting new users, and reaching the most people possible. So, success is defined differently for us at this moment, but we still track and measure all of those things, and I can still report on all of that. But honestly, it's really critical when it comes to content that it's content that's meaningful and useful and relevant to the audience you're trying to engage with. And that's been mantra from day one, is useful, helpful, relevant. Like, let's really be that to the people that matter to us.
Hey, can I pause you there for a second? Just because this comes up a lot, especially when we deal with customers that, like what we call don't have any sort of like foundation for marketing, right? So you inherit this blog, it's only been up for a year, right? The first word that comes to my mind when I tell somebody about what I'm trying to build is I have to use the patience word, right? Because it's one of those things that like, hey, we're building a foundation, we're building an engine, we're building something here, and you can't just click and have it tomorrow. How did you sort of like navigate that, especially like with, department heads and management and, every other stakeholders? What was that like to show them that like, look, I got nothing right now, but I'm going to build you something, but you got to be patient? Did you have those conversations, or am I making that up?
No, we definitely had to have those conversations. And again, early on, the conversations they tended to be a lot of the stakeholders telling us what to do or what they wanted us to do. So turning that dynamic around and explaining that we were approaching this differently, and actually using, like, when we talked about numbers with them, it's not here's the traffic. It's here's how many patients are seeing this particular article. If we do it this way, we're going to reach more patients or potential patients for you. If we do it this way, this is what's happening. Sharing the numbers, sharing the feedback, because it really is feedback, right? That's the point. And I think the more that we connected it to patient care, and helping them in their practices and helping them engage with more people, build up their own personal reputation as well when they're quoted and linked to in the articles. But it was a lot. And I still spend most of my time, honestly, presenting and sharing the strategy, the results, good or bad, because sometimes the bad can tell them more than the good about what to do next, or how and why we're asking for the things that we're asking them to participate in. We can't do a single thing on our site with our content without a clinical expert involved. So it's critical that we're building that stakeholder engagement and trust. And the only way that we got to the point where we got the investment at the level that we did last year was because of that reputation building that we did all along, and sharing the results and sharing those wins and losses, and the iteration on the strategy that we would make and pivot against the data all along the way. It's absolutely a critical part of how we got here.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's a lot of wrestling going on there. So like, you're like, hey, these are 5 things that you should know about tennis elbow and how it impacts joint movement, right? And then you get a doctor who's probably like, hey, you know what? How come we're not on the first page of Google for joint pain in Mayfield Heights? You know what I mean?
Oh, every day.
I'm like, I'm building a machine here, and you're looking at every screen. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
You know what? It's it's not a legitimate question for them. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
absolutely.
That's where my office is. You know what I
Nobody
mean?
questions me about the 17 SEO people because everybody has Googled and everybody has asked me exactly that question. Why aren't we ranking for this thing? Why is our competitor outranking us for this thing? And there's so many different ways, and people don't understand how it works. And so when I tell them that we're going to hire people who just live and breathe and study all of that, they're like, okay. And your clinical area is going to have a dedicated person. That's amazing, right? It's a totally different thing than trying to like have to defend the conversation all the time.
And that's the challenge we have, because we'll come in and we'll say, look, we are your team, stuff like that. But keep in mind that you have 16 specialties, 40 doctors, and about 3 million treatments.
Yeah. Prioritizing that is hard. I mean, before we were doing this, when we had one SEO person, it's exactly that. It's where's the greatest opportunity? Where's the search volume? Where is it worth putting resources? I mean, we're lucky enough now where we don't have to make some of those calls, but it's still always about that. Where's the greatest opportunity to hit the metrics that you're being held accountable for?
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so now that we've got this battle sort of dealt with, we figured it out. We got that done. Let's get into like just tactics. So we've already kind of talked about SEO, and I don't think we have to talk about that a little bit more. But what about the distinction between like SEO and content marketing? Like, how do you see that sort of like? How do you describe that internally? Like, hey, I got 17 SEO guys, but, we're doing something bigger called content marketing.
To me, SEO is just part of content marketing. It's a tool, right? Mm-hmm. The core of the work is really around what is that content strategy? What are you talking about? Who is the audience you're trying to connect with and why? And the why is really important because as we all know, I mean, content marketing is not a quick, easy thing to do. And it's not something that shows immediate impact. You've got to it's a marathon, as we all say. And, that is why I think SEO is, like I said, part of it. It's a tool. It's a part of my team, but it's not the whole thing. And we have more writers than we have SEO people because it is all about the content, right? And what are we talking about? Who are we featuring and focusing on? What are we doing? Yep. I mean, SEO layers on top of that to help get that content exposed.
Right.
But it still comes down to the messaging,
the content,
the strategy there, what you're talking about.
Exactly. And the argument we make, and you probably have made this, is basically, when we talk to customers, like everybody has competitors. You're not getting away from that, right? I don't know one business that doesn't have competitors. Maybe I think I know one, but the argument we make is the most informative website, the most useful website always wins. Right. So when we approach content, right, when we approach content marketing, it's like, all right, there's millions of things we can write about, right? But how do we become useful? And in the healthcare space is on the patient level.
Yeah, you can't SEO your way out of bad content. You really have to start with great stuff. SEO just helps. I mean, doing that work but you have to start with a great base.
Yep, definitely. One of the things that we do is something called Quasi. You ever heard of it?
So Quasi is questions with answers and simple information, right? So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to break down like what are the most commonly asked questions, right? Break that down in maybe like short form, like maybe a video, and then break it out long form in text, right? So we're trying to basically figure out like what does the audience need to know? What's important to them? How can we answer those questions? How can we solve it with content? And then how can we engage that patient, client, customer, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. How about paid? You want to say something about that, Chris? Sorry. This is your baby. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like we stand in front of physician groups and they'll say, well, Ferrotech, like we have certain people that never even come to our website. They see our listings, our citations, and then they want to call. Should we focus our time there? Should we focus on content? Should we focus on SEO? Or should we actually focus it on like our call center so that we actually convert? And our answer is like, yes.
All the things.
All of it. Because like Quasi, like I write content for a living and I literally call the first number on the first page just because that's how, unfortunately, I'm busy and that's how I'm wired.
Well, and it's to be expected. I mean, that should be what you do.
Yeah. Ads work on me. Like I'm like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? They just work on me. But because I don't have the time to do the due diligence, even though I sell a product of due diligence.
A lot really depends on the condition itself. How immediate is the decision you have to make, or the appointment that you need? Or do you have time to do the research? And should you do the research? Should you read reviews? Medicine is everything. It's every part of your body. So, I think it's just so complicated. And I think that's what makes it really hard to be in healthcare marketing. We're also in a position where you can't create demand, right? People either are sick or they're not. They need procedures or they don't. You can't force that.
Yeah, true, but the demand's not going away.
No, but the thing about content is that it can be there in those moments, right? When they do the search and you show up, they're going to call you. If you don't show up, you're not even considered. So you have to be in the game.
And we talk about kind of, it's hokey, but and you've heard it a billion times, like, getting the right message to the right patient at the right time. And, you hear that from HubSpot to wherever, but then you start getting down to the meat and potatoes, and that's always it. It's always it. Great content at the wrong time.
Well, and if you have great content, but it doesn't actually help them get care quickly, and you send them on a goose chase through your call center, and they have to answer 50 million questions that maybe they already answered on a form or something along those lines. And the experience, it's all connected. You can't think about it separately. It really is a journey, as we always say. The patient journey is such an overused term, but it's the truth. And thinking through that entire, from the Google search to the appointment, what does that look like? And how easy are you making it for them to get the right appointment with the right providers at the right facilities in the right formats, whether it's a virtual visit or an in-person? Are you making that easy? And that's a big part of what my team is working on right now. Big part of this tier strategy goes beyond just traffic and reach. It's also connecting patients to an easier path to care and getting away from an org chart driven website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can you do that in 60 seconds?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. That's
Yeah.
All right. Chris kind of brought this up, so I want to bring this up. We're still in the tactics section here, by the way. Paid ads. What do you think?
I think paid ads are an important strategy, but I think it really depends on the procedure itself or what you're looking at. I don't think it works for everything. And if it's something that requires a lot of targeting, there's very few organic opportunities to reach a specific subset of an audience. So it can be really, really effective at doing that.
Okay. All right. So slow down real quick, just because I want our audience to hear that, because that was super important. Just say that one again, because that was really important.
Okay. It's really effective for certain things. And on the paid side, the targeting that you're able to do, you cannot match that organically. It's impossible. So if you're really looking at a very specific subset of the population or a patient type, paid is the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think so much of the stuff here, and I think when we had our prep call, I think we were talking about intent. And I think great content marketers, I know it sounds weird, but we look at all of the science, we look at that whole universe, and the thing that keeps us up at night is creating content that hits them right where their intent, where the intent matters the most. You know what I mean? Like you can be ranked on the first page of Google for certain keywords, but the intent might be literally like search result 7. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Just because they ranked for the keyword, it doesn't mean that it's answering the question at all.
And everybody wants to rank for the keyword that's like the general disease name. Well, think about who's searching that versus who's searching care for the disease name. Near me. Mm-hmm. You want to be there, right? Like that's the thing. And intent, I think, requires different types of content. The general health library article we have on a disease is not actually going to help somebody who says care for the disease near me. They need the page that actually is about our providers who can treat them in the locations right by them. So you have to be more careful about that and not trying to go after always the most biggest, highest search for keywords. The ones that have the actual impact that you're looking for. If you're really looking at volume driving and contribution margin, then a disease name search is not your best bet. But for me, I need all those disease name search because I'm trying to reach all the people all over the world every day. So it's a whole different strategy. And the more sophisticated you are, the more effective you are. And when you layer on paid strategies with paid search, the more effective you are with your dollars. I mean, it's so hard, and it requires a lot of careful consideration and iteration and optimization of your funds and resources for the content you're developing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was thinking about one of our project managers posted a meme, and it was a dentist in front of his office, and like he was like whatever he was doing, and he moved out of the way, and the sign on the building, the name of his practice was called Dentist Near Me. And he said that guy wins the SEO game.
That's amazing.
I don't know if you saw that. I'll send it to you later, but it was absolutely hysterical. Getting back to what you just said, and I just wanted to comment on this real quick because it focuses on the attend piece. So you basically told us you have offices in Ohio, Florida, Abu Dhabi, London, right? Why is it important for you to get content for somebody that maybe lives in, say, San Diego? Like, why is that important?
That's important because one of the metrics I'm held accountable for is around our national brand awareness and reputation. So while someone in San Diego might not make an appointment with Cleveland Clinic today, we want them to know who we are. We're a national healthcare brand, which is not the case for a lot of folks, but it is for us. And so it's something we measure. We invest in heavily. We do paid strategies in those markets too. It's not just on us, but for us, what I'm doing with content is the most cost-effective way to reach the largest audience across the entire country.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about social media later, but I do want to ask the question about video. One of the things that we talk about is content 2.0. So content would be text, right? Content 2.0 for us is basically coming up with a blog or a service page and then incorporating basically a short video, sort of addressing that quasi issue in a short video, like a bite-sized video, right? Is that something that you're doing right now, or what are other ways that you're implementing video into your content strategy?
Sure. We do quite a lot of video, actually. And so I've talked a little bit about the health library. So that's kind of like our encyclopedia of health information. We support a lot of that content with a mini like video version of that. So the article might be 1,000, 2,000 words, but the video is going to be that quick soundbite with the doctor explaining what the condition might be, answering the questions. We've also partnered with YouTube directly, where they've given us topics they want us to cover on our platforms for them.
So they're sharing data with you about like search?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it aligns pretty closely. No, it aligns really closely to what we see in traditional Google search. But yeah, no, and we're building content on our channel that YouTube itself is amplifying because they want trusted, credible content that's answering health content questions on their platform. And so we do quite a bit of video, but we also do social media video. We do things on the blog to support some of the content, different things. So yeah, we do a lot every day.
And is that video like when you look at your staff of 80, like do you have videographers and editors on that staff?
So the staff of 80, I have 2 people dedicated to video. One is kind of like an overall manager of video. One is pretty much doing uploading and managing the YouTube channel itself. We outsource production for our video, but we do have an in-house media production studio and all of that too. But they primarily support our corp comm, like PR stuff more than us.
I had one more question there though. And so where we talk about content 2.0, and this is the internal wrestling match, is where does the origin of content come from? And what I mean by that is that it's one of those things where a lot of the content that we talk about is already in between the ears of the physicians of our clients, right? And so while we can try to script all that out, when we do that, the physicians look like they're like a hot dog. You know what I mean? Like they hot dog. You know that expression, like hot dog?
Yeah.
Like they're so jovial, so humanizing, and then you put on the green light, and they're like.
Yeah, we never script them. And we typically we will typically maybe give them a list of questions we might ask them so they know what we're trying to cover, but we never script them. And generally, if we're doing a video, we do the video interview and then we turn that into any other type of content we want. So if that's a blog post or whatever, and we're always also like when we do a podcast, the podcast becomes a video, becomes a blog post, becomes the social things. We break it all down and do all that.
That's content 2.0. And that, I know it sounds weird, but been doing this for 20 years, since 2013, 21 years. 2013, it really, really kicked up a notch. And so much of the science has always been one directional. And I'm like, you know what? Like when you have to give content to a thought leader, it's like you miss the whole point.
Well, right. And no, yeah. And we certainly,
but it happens,
but
right? You see how it happens.
Oh yeah,
right?
it definitely happens. But here's the thing. When we are going to have time with one of our physicians or a medical expert, their time is so valuable and so precious that we try to maximize. If we're going to get 30 minutes with them, let's get the absolute most out of that 30 minutes that we possibly can for as much content as we possibly can afterwards. And, you know, everything gets transcribed, so then we can turn everything into whatever we need it to be. But if we can get that and we can solve all kinds of problems with one expert one time, or we get a longer period of time and can cover multiple topics with that subject matter expert, that's the way to win. I mean, that's the most efficient, effective, awesome way to be consistent about it as well, so that whoever and however they're coming in to your content, they're getting that same type of information. And the video piece of it is so important with doctors because it's that human connection like you're talking about. I mean, it really shows their personality. It brings them to life for a patient. It makes them feel more comfortable about coming to see them. There's so many things that not only, I mean, obviously the numbers matter to me about engagement, but there's so much more that comes with that. And that's where content marketing can be so powerful, right? I mean, it's storytelling at its core. And so when you have a patient and a doctor and health tips and health information, I mean, it's just so powerful and strong in building relationships with the brand that there's no question to our organization anyway, that content is incredibly important to us.
Yeah. So like, that's one of the things. So I try to blog as much as I can, but I'm always struggling to do that. But one of my most well-received blogs was what to do in the pandemic. Literally, I wrote it, I think March 13th was Armageddon, right? Nationwide. And I think I wrote it on like the 20th. And I said, you don't even know it right now, but this is the golden age for you, because so many physicians are sort of on hold right now. And the number one thing that we need to create really great content are physicians that have no time. So I'm like, seize the moment. You know what I mean? Like, if it was up to me, I would be doubling down and the camera would be rolling until, you know what I mean? Until midnight. And I'm like, you will never get this time again.
Yeah.
I promise you.
The other thing that led to, you know, previously, if we were going to interview a doctor, you would traipse into their office. You would have to make sure everything looked good. You'd be in there with the crew. You know, the pandemic let us do it this way and start recording through, you know, this. And it was amazing. Their availability drastically changed. Our productivity drastically changed, and user expectations changed, right? This was suddenly okay and expected. Totally. And so we have not gone back to going into there's been a ton of opportunity, and our productivity and effectiveness has grown exponentially. And then, like I said, also being fully remote, being able to recruit talent across the country and being able to deploy teams at every institute. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. The growth we've seen is unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think the client expectations lowering was the greatest gift of all this.
Yeah.
Because you just focus on the content. I don't care whether you have like a Budweiser t-shirt on. You know what I mean?
We do that.
I
do
built
care about
this
that.
fake brick wall for nothing.
What drives me nuts, though, is how lazy people are getting with the Zoom backgrounds, and then they have this crazy halo.
Oh yeah, and the like blurry like movement.
Like,
or their arm disappears.
Like?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the best you could do, really?
Like, that's great. All right, but we're getting off topic here. Let's get back on topic, because you mentioned something super important, right? So the involvement of the doctor, right? You know, that's like the keeper of the content, like the holy grail of content is like what that doctor knows, what they see on a clinical level. Like, so what's the process for A, kind of approaching the doctor, and then B, sort of like, how do you get the doctor to buy into your, like, I got this vision, I got this strategy, I'm building something. Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of time that I do now. I spend most days presenting a lot and talking to them about what our plans are, because everybody wants a better website. Everybody has opinions about what that should be, or what the blog should be called, or what the content should be. I mean, and all doctors want their specialty to be the feature and the most prominent, right? So a lot of it is just really a ton of discussion. I need to understand what are their priorities, what are their business needs for their specialty, what is happening, what are they getting questions about from patients, because a lot of what we have to offer is an outlet to reach mass amounts of people simultaneously. And during the pandemic, that's been really critical. So a lot of them became a lot more familiar with us and with what we do as a result of that. So we definitely take full advantage. It really varies how we engage depending on the physician, how much they've worked with us in the past, or if their particular area is an area where we need a lot of content, because it's just some are super niche and we don't need as much, or we've already done a lot. So, we engage different ways. My team is in constant contact with our marketing teams for each service line, helping to identify new physicians who come on board, really trying to figure out who's the best to talk about which topics, and kind of keeping master lists of that to make sure that we're not asking them for things that are outside of their zone, like really let's lean into the best experts for the best things and make sure we're not asking too much of any one individual is really important. And then also making sure they know what it is we're asking for. Why does this matter? What is the blog? Some of them don't know still, or they've never been a part of it. And we have to go back to those basics and make sure that we're explaining. And again, that we share results after the fact. You contribute to an article, it reached this many people. You know what happens the next time we ask? They're a lot more responsive. So it's the full circle communication that I think matters the most.
Okay. About how many doctors are in the clinic? Organization? Got thousands, right?
Thousands. Multiple thousands, yeah.
Yeah. And then do you do any, obviously with, where we are technologically, I mean, do you like go outside of like the States, like for like doctors in London and Abu Dhabi, like are you incorporating them as well, like as you're building those practices?
So Abu Dhabi has its own website because there's language things and stuff that has to be handled differently. We weigh in at a high level strategy perspective there and talk, but they have their own blog and they have their own website. And then London is just open, like the hospital is opening this year, next month. So we have an outpatient facility there. We have engaged medical experts from London as well. And they're more integrated into our main website. We use medical experts though from all of our locations in our content. So Florida, Vegas, Canada, all of it.
Yeah. Plus you got to deal with the language barrier too.
I mean, the Arabic and the things that are required for that just make Abu Dhabi a little bit different and tougher.
Yeah. I was talking more so about the London barrier.
Yeah, fish and chips.
It's funny though. Even
water closet.
Even before we had the facility in London, the UK was our number 2 country for traffic. So we were getting engagement already. We've just built on that. And then if we have a visitor who's coming to our website and viewing health information from London, or from the UK at all, we want to make sure they know that we have a facility in London. They can get care there. So there's work that we're doing now to just connect all those dots and make that streamlined.
Yeah.
We call that remarketing.
Yeah. It's funny for us is we had 1 or 2 large clients that were bought by a larger client, and our new points of contact were in England. And as you can see, we joke around a lot. Unfortunately, it's just we have to do it to survive. And everything I was saying, our internal team is laughing like crazy, and I don't know what it was, but when they're work, they're all work. And they were just like as stiff as a board. And then I find out later, like, oh, they loved it. I was like, well, their face never showed that. You know what I mean? And I was just always wondering, like, when you start to do content, right? Like, what translates here? Literally, it's the same language, but I know it sounds weird, but it just things translate.
Oh, no, it's definitely different. I mean, and they don't, with the consultants and GPs versus the way we talk about physicians and all of that. I mean, when we developed the content for the London specific website pages, we used writers in the UK and we ran that all past that team. And it's definitely not the same as here, but from a branding perspective and from like health information, we have chosen not to have like a whole separate health library for the UK. The translation is not enough to warrant that, but in the main like service oriented pages and the things that talk about why Cleveland Clinic, that's all done for London specifically.
How does HIPAA change your content approach? Because that is all we talk about in this company.
Yeah. HIPAA definitely presents some unique challenges for us. I think unlike other types of industries, once someone actually gets care with us, they kind of go into a black box. We don't have the opportunity to engage the same way or to divide our lists in certain ways or to do the things that would be amazing. So it definitely affects the way you are able to identify, your audience and your segments and the things that would be really ideal. I think it doesn't affect too much about how we talk about different conditions or how we talk about why Cleveland Clinic or how to get care at Cleveland Clinic. I mean, for the most part, our content strategy doesn't change. It just, HIPAA prevents us from doing some things on the more targeted, sophisticated level that, we would love to do from a marketing automation perspective or CRM perspective. We're just not allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been us too. We create vehicles for them to opt in, but as soon as they engage, if you want to use that word, they got to get out of bucket one. There is still, you know what I mean? There's a yo-yo effect of making sure that now that they've crossed this dotted line, I can't pretend like I even know what you were interested in.
We don't know what services you had here. Like it's a big black box. And then, if you lapse in your care for a while, then we can reactivate you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so there's a dance for sure. And, we err on the side of caution. Like sometimes clients and literally on their Google reviews or something like that, they'll ask a question or be angry about something. And we don't even advise answering it because I think it's actually like a violation of, like confirming you had that procedure.
You run into that with social media too. The comments and the things people want answers about, and then they complain you didn't answer them. It's like, well, I can't do that to you publicly. You're telling it, but we can't do it.
Yeah. And it is funny though, because like some of the social media stuff, there's always people in that thread that answer things the way my mom answers texts. Like literally, like I put things on my Facebook wall. I'm like, here's my cute kids at the zoo. And they're like, hey, did you get that check I mailed you? Right. Meanwhile, you're like, here's 5 things about tennis elbow. It's like, I have fluid in my knee. And Dr. Schmidt said I shouldn't. You're like, dude, right?
Oh yeah,
you got to let it go because it's like this HIPAA like crazy landscape. You know what I mean? And it's the Wild West. Like I wouldn't change it, my industry, like for a second, but behind closed doors, we're always laughing about like.
Oh man, and COVID has brought out the worst of the worst.
I know. I got to write a book.
All right, well, that's a good segue because that's actually our next question. Our next question is like, what are some challenges for healthcare marketing kind of going forward? Obviously, one of them is COVID. So talk about that for a second, if you don't mind.
I think COVID has really hurt just people's perceptions of healthcare and trust. There's just a lot of doubt, a lot of questioning expertise. I think a lot of putting off or pushing off like preventative care and things like that. And again, questioning science of things. It puts us in a difficult position. I think content can really help with that. The way that we're able to provide updated information and answer the questions and put the experts out there to really talk about it. But, it's also impacted the perception of our industry, our employees. Burnout is very real. COVID has a lot of impact on everything we're doing in healthcare right now.
Yep. My wife's a nurse practitioner, and I know it sounds weird, but she works 24-hour shifts. And she's like, you ever wear a mask for 24 hours? It gets to your brain. And I know it sounds weird, but you take some of these small little ingredients, and eventually, after 3 years, when we thought it would be 2 weeks.
Well, and with social in particular, we've had to disable comments on Facebook on any COVID-related posts we make because it just gets out of control and it actually can hurt and spread disinformation in the commentary. Yep. So, we have this responsibility to make sure that we're putting out the best and most accurate information at the time. And so, while people get mad at us about it, we're really sticking to our guns about being responsible with what we're putting out and the information that we, share. And it's really tough. It's been tough on my team. It's emotionally exhausting to have to review every single one of those comments too. And it's been a long journey.
Yeah. But I mean, you only have to get to what, 2 billion sessions? So
1 billion this year.
1 billion. Hey. Not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah, this is so cool. Well, I think we're starting to get close to our time. Todd, do you got anything else we want to?
No, I think that the big thing for me was, and this is more to do with you, was, you've built this unbelievable team, right? So you come on in 2013 and like, you're Amanda, I'm getting this done. I'm getting all this done. So, and then fast forward, gosh, what are we, 8-9 years now?
9 years.
Now, right now you're not anymore the doer, you're like the manager. So like, how did that shift for you? Like just from like, hey, this was my skill set as like a content marketer, digital marketer, back then. And now you're kind of not so much like Chris will say, like making the sausage, like you're just kind of watching the sausage get made. Like, so how did that shift for you?
Yeah.
Is that a strange analogy? Sorry.
That's been honestly a really interesting journey for me personally. Like you said, when I started here, I was in everything and I was hands-on in Facebook, making posts, like helping schedule, looking at data, going in Google Analytics. And with the team the size that it is now, I have people really running different functions extremely effectively. And so I started every day looking at my schedule also to be like, do I need to be in this meeting or is this someone else on my team? It's really important that I empower other people because this isn't just the Amanda show. I mean, this is the Cleveland Clinic content marketing team that has got us to this point. Many of them who are in the leadership positions have been with me since day one and are absolutely amazing, very close parts of our organization. And so it's hard though. I still look at things and want to go in and fix it or do it. But that's why we operate in a way where we have a stand up every morning. I have a chance to talk to them every day, check in, see how things are going, weigh in on things or answer address problems that are happening. So I do stay very close and in touch, but I'm not doing as much. And I am always in the position of like, I give direction and then I wait and see, and did it work or did it not? And are we, it's just more or less keeping everybody on track and making sure that the big strategic plan that we've laid out is being executed the way that it's supposed to be. Yep. But it's not been easy for someone. I mean, most of us are, I'm the perfectionist, totally driven. We're going to get it done no matter what. But my team is amazing. And I really take to heart, like my role now is really about empowering them and growing leadership.
Right. So pretty much you've disabled all your logins to all your applications. You can't do anything. You can just watch.
I can just watch. Yeah. That's right.
Right. That's good. No, that's awesome. Well, you just watch and tell people what to do. I love it. Yes. But that's a dream job.
Yeah. But that's the hard job because so you have this economy of scale issue, right? So obviously you want to fail quickly and you want to try these little micro experiments. But then all of a sudden, like do you know Andy Crestodina?
Yeah.
I love that guy and I hate that guy because I learned so much from him. But then I go to my team, I'm like, and we could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this. And they're like, do you know the ripple effect of just doing that, just doing that, just doing that? I'm like, well, how's Andy do it? It's like, we don't know. Like literally, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
no, totally.
He's like, bring value in every page scroll. I literally try to put a diagram on everything like that. And I'm like, 1,500 words. I'm like, so now I got to make 6 diagrams per blog, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's got a gift. Like he's exceptional. But what I was trying to do is get to your thing. It's like, as you learn a new concept, you can't do it all. But then even if you implement just the smallest thing, multiply that by
oh yeah,
the ripple effect.
A billion.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
that's tough.
But that's also why the team of teams works so well, because we set it up in such a way that we're sharing across the teams. So if something's working here, then we can roll it out and see bigger results faster. So even though we're doing lots of little micro experiments, and it does have ripple effects, most of the time, it's such a benefit that we're able to kind of offset that. But it is tough. And like the hardest thing for me, honestly, is like I went from a year ago, my team was 23 to 80 people. I'm not as close and connected to all of them. I wasn't involved in the hiring of all of them because we have directors and managers and leaders involved in all of this. So it's still always about how we bring everybody together and share those insights in ways that help us, like you said, fail faster, but also learn from each other. and that we're not doing little experiments in a silo. And SEO is connected to writing, is connected to creative, is, like all that stuff has to stay intact and be in lockstep every step of the way. And that's where my job comes in, is making sure everybody's talking to everybody else, and that, there's these themes drawn out because they're so heads down. Our goals are so aggressive that they come up for air and look around.
Yeah. Yeah. I think of just even the concept of re-optimizing content, like you have original content and then you re-optimize content, and the ripple effect of where did I syndicate this to? Where did I publish this to? Where, like all that stuff like that. And it's so funny how the bigger the ship you have, which you have probably the biggest in the country, like, oh, I pull this little string here. There's 5 other. Yeah,
for sure. And anticipating what those might be. It gets harder.
I know. Yeah. It's like, it is funny because we have a client, I don't want to drop names, but the Ivy League is right in the heart of where we're at. And, so we've had decent relationships with some organizations in the Ivy League. And I can think of one of the schools that has, I think it's 85 websites built by 85 different web developers who have no unified branding strategy, that have none stuff like that. And so when we came in and did the website, I'm like, well, who do we call? And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I was like, how does the smartest minds in the world not like come together to just synergize? And the answer is, it's so expensive to find someone like you to connect all the dots.
Yeah.
And so it's chaos reigns, because it's just the vision, and I want to kind of congratulate or applaud your boss who saw your vision, heard your vision, allowed you to do these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to let chaos reign and just be like, oh.
You make the great point. It has to be somebody's job to connect it. And if it isn't, and everybody's just doing their own thing, because there is no one looking at it that way, it's going to be a chaotic mess forever. I mean, and the Cleveland Clinic was in that position when our CMO started here 15 years ago. There were separate websites for every department. They all did their own thing. They all had their own website, and it was chaos. And that was one of the first things he did, was bring all of that together. By the time I joined the team, that cleanup work was already done, but it was about taking everything to the next level then and really making the website the best it could be. And one fun fact, when I started the organization, the amount of traffic we got in an entire year is what we just got in January. So it's been amazing.
But to do that surgery, I want to applaud what you just said, because I don't want my users, that was, but the surgery that your predecessor did, nobody wants to do. It's the most ungratifying.
It's also political. It's political. It's hard. Doctors feel like they know what they need on the website, and they all have opinions about what their competitors are doing. And it's different for this specialty versus that specialty. And, it's so hard. And I'm going through that now, because we're changing a lot of the structure of the site and changing the culture to be away from, we have an Ohio website and we have a Florida website, and we have to one Cleveland Clinic, one website that's patient first structured. It's a culture change. They feel all this ownership, and they've invested a lot of time over a long period of years. But the reality is, what is needed today is not what was needed 10 years ago. So we have to evolve, and someone has to drive that forward, or nobody ever will change the way.
Yeah. And, I see people get emotionally invested in what they've built. And it's like, it kind of feels like your baby. Like, I've been doing web development for like 21 years, and we'll look up on a website I built 4 years ago, which I loved. They just like replaced it. Sometimes it's garbage. And I'm like, well, that was 6 months of my life. You know what I mean? I raised it from a pup. You know what I mean? And then, but that's life. You know what I mean? And so the bad guy who has to go in there and be like, hey, you know what?
I have to play that role all the time. I have to tell people no every day. And I definitely have people who don't love me, but it's my job to make sure that we're following a strategy. We have a vision, we have a plan, that we execute on it, and we deliver on the things that we've promised our C-suite.
It's awesome. Cool. What's next for you?
Oh, billions. It's heads down. I mean, honestly, it's execution of the vision. We have a solid plan that's proving to be pretty effective. And I'm just excited to continue the journey and get those results that I know we can.
Okay. When are you going to write a book?
Oh, it's on the list. I really want to do that. I just need time.
Amanda,
Come on, man.
Chris,
You
you
said you had a book, Chris.
one excuse after another.
Wait a second.
Oh, I gotta get 2 billion visitors.
Oh, wait a
I
second.
gotta build the biggest healthcare.
Too many zeros. I can't even get to my book.
I actually think on my bookshelf, I have a book that Joe Pulizzi signed for me that says, "Where is your book?" Like, he literally wrote that.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right. So when you get to the status that you're at, right? So like what you do is you turn to your boss and you go, look, I need a sabbatical. That's when you write the book.
The sabbatical is not going to be allowed until we hit those billions. I can tell you that.
Exactly. Yeah. When I heard about your boss, he's like, "Oh, cool, now do it again."
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody can do 2 billion. 4 billion was the number I thought we agreed upon.
Fantastic.
Let me ask you one last question. And sorry if I'm getting all mushy here, but you've been in the game for a long time. You know, you probably got another round based upon our age. We got maybe one more round at this thing. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I definitely want to be that undisputed leader. And I want my legacy to be the leaders I leave behind to carry it forward. And that's a lot of my focus now is on those people who are taking the reins on a lot of the areas that are under me right now, and getting them to the level of their career that they aspire to. Who's the next Amanda at Cleveland Clinic? That's the key.
Yeah, that's so much better than what I would have said.
Yeah, seriously, that was good. That was really good.
I know.
Because, someday I want to be that C-suite CMO.
Exactly. Yeah, seriously. I don't know. My legacy.
You keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get
That
an
is the
extra
plan.
window.
That is the goal.
You buckle down, you're going to get an extra window in that office. You think about that?
We might give you that one day sabbatical.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh man, this has been awesome, Amanda. This is so cool. So we'd love to have you back. Maybe check in with you in a year and a half, and to see how all this is going. And we're going to be following you along the way. And this has been wonderful.
Certainly.
Love to keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is really, really cool. So I'm a fan of everything you're building. So, internet, big salute to Amanda and Cleveland Clinic. And we want to thank, all of our visitors who have joined us. We hope you got a lot of value from this. Amanda's information is going to be in the show notes as well. If you are a new visitor or a new visitor, please subscribe, click on the notification. We'd love to have you come back. It is our goal and our mission to speak with the best content marketers, the best digital marketers on the planet. And Amanda, you are absolutely one of those. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this video. What I wanted to do now is share something with you that we believe is very special. We call it the Ferrotech unique process. What you'll see on this page is our entire roadmap that we've built over the last 21 years. We've implemented this process for nearly all of our inbound marketing clients. And we believe that if you implement some of these strategies into your own marketing, you're going to have tremendous results. We developed this page to not only be in video format, but also in text and chapter format as well. Now, when it's done effectively, this process is going to help your organization systematically generate leads, nurture leads into clients, and then convert those clients into raving fans of your products and services, and also your mission and value. If you have any questions or comments about anything that you've read or seen in the previous video, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us and we'll have one of our specialists walk through this with you step by step. You can do that by reaching out to us at info@ferrotech.com. So once again, the domain to find our unique process is www.ferrotechuniqueprocess.com. Thank you.